Oladipo, though.
No Victor Oladipo.
No. Don't even think about it.
What's up, guys? Welcome into the pregame lounge. There we go.
Green pants for Dev today. I like it.
Love it. Love the energy, guys. Love the energy. We are presented, of course, by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Whoa.
There it is.
If you are signing up for DraftKings, make sure you use the code DNVR. If you don't, you're absolutely dead to me. I am joined tonight for Nuggets Raptors by the one and only superstar, Dev Johnson.
I like this. Like, people are giving off. This is good vibes around here today. This is good vibe. It must be a trade on the horizon.
Ooh, is there?
It must be a trade.
Well, we'll get to that in segment number 2. I'm also joined by Brendan Vogt.
Does kind of feel like a Friday, doesn't it? With that trade deadline tomorrow.
Yeah.
That kind of night before holiday feel. I'm jazzed.
This is my favorite and absolutely least favorite 24 hours
At the same time
of the year.
You're right.
It's amazing, but also just absolutely terrible.
Do you know how many people are just like waiting on you to do something right now, Harrison? They're waiting for you to be the one that gives them the news, good or bad. You have a lot like riding on these type of days.
I think people should set other accounts to their Twitter notifications before mine. But we'll talk about some trade chatter, and also we spoke on this a little bit on last night's post-game show. But maybe this might be Gary Harris or Will Barton's final game in a Nuggets uniform. We'll talk about some of our favorite memories of them. And, of course, our best DraftKings bets for Nuggets Raptors tonight. First, though, game notes. Nuggets are in Tampa Bay, not Toronto. Tampa Bay for probably the first time ever.
That's right. So taking on the Tampa Bay Raptors tonight, the Nuggets are without Monte Morris. He's out with the quad. Gary Harris out with the adductor. Greg Whittington out with the knee. So same injury report as last time. On the Tampa Bay/Toronto side, the Raptors are listing Patrick McCaw, left knee swelling, as out for tonight's game versus Denver. Nobody else is on the injury report for Toronto.
There was some questions during Nick Nurse's pregame availability about, is Kyle Lowry and Norm Powell going to play, because there's so many trade rumors about them, but it seems like those guys are going to be out there. So
seems to be the case. The latest update I have is just McCaw.
Yeah. On Toronto, like, Toronto has really underachieved this year. They're 17-26, but they have a decent point differential. They're the ultimate COVID team, I feel like. They're playing in Tampa Bay. I feel like that's just being
right off the bat.
Yeah, being undersold this entire year. They've had tons of COVID issues. Like Pascal Siakam just got into it with Nick Nurse the other night. They're kind of a bit of a wreck right now, don't you feel like?
Yeah, I mean, the Nick Nurse thing has been really interesting to watch. You know, he wins a championship and has earned a sort of, I guess I don't know what his approach is because I'm not in that locker room, but he carries himself like a championship coach. And
he's an absolute treat in the pregame availability, I'll say.
But I think quicker than I expected, at least, there seems to be some friction between he and those players. He has not gotten, the defensive effort he's hoped for out of his group, whether that's, availability issues or not, all season long. And, the Pascal Siakam thing is, I think, a dynamic that we've heard about in Toronto sort of coming to a head here, which has been a sort of chippy Nick Nurse with the media about his players all season.
Yeah, but also with that, it comes with just losing. When you lose a lot of games and you're not playing up to, like, the caliber that you expect, especially with that being the core that just won the championship, it comes like that's when like you start to question like how close you guys really are and just like what's going wrong. Like going into the season, you don't expect this to be the team that's in 11th in the East.
Yeah.
And they're just not looking well right now. So then that's when everything else does start coming to like the forefront. And right now you're starting to see it with Pascal. You're starting to see a lot of rumors with Kyle Lowry, like which were there before, but just not at this like same capacity. And then you have a very, very good coach that's just trying to get the best out of his team. So it's a tough spot to be in.
Well, Siakam's had a pretty bad year for his standards.
Yeah.
He's kind of taken a step back, it seems like, and his star definitely isn't as bright as it was a couple years ago. And I bet if you're on that team, you could definitely sense that, okay, like we are about to blow it up at the trade deadline. Like they've lost 9 in a row. They're in an absolute tailspin right now. So, I mean, this is another game Nuggets just have to take care of business.
It seems like they're at the precipice of a total rebuild and a cultural identity shift as well, with if and as Kyle Lowry moves on. That's sort of, the face of an era of Raptors basketball. So yeah, you'd like to take advantage of what seems like a team that probably doesn't feel like they have a lot to play for right now.
Yeah, also on the Nuggets injury front, Monte Morris and Gary Harris expected back. I want to get Michael Malone's wording here correctly. Expected back in the not too distant future, or the hope is that they're back in the not too distant future. He pretty much said they won't play Friday in New Orleans, but didn't really go beyond that. So Monte, it seemed like he was on track to return by now. Malone a couple games ago said, yeah, like he'll be back in the next game or two. So he is close. Gary Harris, I don't want to call what Malone said a real update, but I mean, at least he didn't say like, yes, there's no update,
Yeah. And the Morris thing, I mean, he tried to play that as vague as he could, it really seemed like he left it open-ended. No indication that there was a setback per se, but I'm with you. It did seem like he'd be back any game, and that now is he's a little closer to the Gary Harris status of I'm not sure what that timetable is.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to trade chatter, and we're going to go through a couple of the big names that are on the block and how they pertain to the Nuggets. But in the comments, I want you guys to just throw out some names that you want us to talk about, and we'll say if we like the fit or if it's a potential deal for Denver or whatnot. I want to start with Aaron Gordon, the belle of the ball, the belle of this year's trade deadline for sure. I don't think anything has really changed from last night's show on Gordon. It seems like Boston's still the front runner. Seems like Denver is still right in the thick of it if they want to go all in. What's kind of your read on this Aaron Gordon situation, Dev?
I mean, I thought that it was going to die down after last night, but it started to pick up like traction like in the last couple of hours about the Nuggets still really being in the hunt. That's just like from the outside media like sources and things of them still really wanting to be involved, which you have to go with it. Like if they're really believing that that's a player that the Nuggets truly do want and they're still in the mix with the other teams that are also in it, it's somebody that they truly do want to be a part of this rotation if they're still in it this late with the deadline just tomorrow. So yeah. I think that it's something real to think about.
I think Gordon's going to get traded, and I predict that the deal gets done right at the deadline. Yeah. I don't think it's going to happen tonight. I mean, I say this now and watch like 2 hours from now Aaron Gordon's traded, but I predict the deal happens tomorrow afternoon right up against the deadline, as a lot of trades probably will. Vogt, how much closer does Aaron Gordon get the Nuggets to a championship? Because what Denver probably has to decide if they really want Aaron Gordon is if they want to push like an RJ Hampton into the deal.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you get the best out of Aaron Gordon, he is the missing archetype. I really think your chances of winning the West, as the Denver Nuggets, are pretty substantial at that point. I think you match up well with a lot of teams. And when you have Jokic, that's the ultimate sort of matchup game breaker. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a risk. There's a difference between what Gordon can be and will be in Denver. And, for as long as we've sort of sat here and say, hey, hold the line, the timeline's longer than you think, it does kind of feel like they can go out and get someone that'll push them over the top for a reasonable price. If that costs you RJ, I think it's worth it.
I just feel like there's a slight crack in the door for the Western Conference. Yes. There's this opening right now that I've got to think the Nuggets want to take advantage of. They don't want to go all in. No, I don't think they really want to include an RJ Hampton in this deal. And they can include one first-round pick, the first-round pick next year, but they can't include another first-rounder until I think like 2027.
Because of the step being rule,
yeah, because of all the protections and whatever. So Hampton is kind of that piece that they might have to put in if they want to get the deal done.
Yeah, and you just talked about the crack being open for the West. The Nuggets are there, and they see that crack, and I'm sure that they're going to just try to go after it. But also, do you think that plays into everyone else? They also see that same crack, and they're like, we're going to try to go after that as well. Like, too, if we have to like give too much up, we'll like raise the price, and we'll also like make it that other people have to think about what they're going to do. So I think that it's an awkward spot to be in, because you're like, is it worth going after it right now, and how much are we willing to give up?
And you asked that question. That's why I'm so surprised to see Boston so involved, if not the front runners. I've talked about this on this show. If you think about all the stars that they decided not to push their chips in the middle for, to go after Aaron Gordon in the year when the Celtics really don't look very good
Right,
with the Nets
right.
out east. I would think that he, is more valuable to Denver than Boston, but we'll see.
To Dev's point a second ago, I've got to think the Nuggets are looking at the Lakers, who seem like they're buyers right now.
Yeah.
Like the Lakers seem like they're looking for upgrades. They're the favorite for Andre Drummond. They're probably going to make another move around the edge at least. So if the Lakers are upgrading, I think Denver's got to look at that and say, like, yeah, we've got to keep pace. We got Jokic playing at an MVP level, having one of the best offensive seasons ever. Point blank, full stop, ever. We've got to kind of push for this. I don't know.
Do we want to get to some of the names from the comments?
Yeah, I want to throw out one more name, then we'll get to some of the names from the comments. Maybe the commenters brought this one up. Would you guys be open, because I've heard Denver's shown a little bit of interest in this guy, would you guys be open for a JaVale McGee reunion in Denver? JaVale McGee.
I mean, the thing with JaVale McGee is we've seen this before. So it's like, why go after JaVale McGee? But then at the same time, you look down your bench and you see a guy, a big guy, and you need a backup center, and you also need some rim protection. You're not using Hartenstein at all. So it's like, why not get a guy like JaVale out there that's going to, at least you know that JaVale's going to go out there and he's going to give some good minutes. When he was with the Nuggets the first time, he was like looked at as a starter. He was looked at as a guy that had to like move some things around. But now, just coming in like for small minutes and being able to just give Jokic a relief, I think that that's a good player to have. I think that there's a lot of names out there when you throw up backup centers that you could just throw in, and you don't have to throw the whole house at JaVale McGee. You don't have to give up too much.
Right, maybe a second round.
Yeah, and also maybe Hartenstein. Like you're not worried about like what you could get with a player like McGee. So I think that is perfect if you're able to get a backup center and not have to give up too much.
The only thing is what I don't know, like I honestly go back and forth on this, is how valuable is a backup center? Do they really need to bring in another body? This isn't a glaring hole, and can you get away with some combination, of Millsap and Green coming off the bench? So, like, I don't think this is a need. But hey, if it's cheap enough, maybe he and Jokic become really good friends. There's some potential viral content there.
The Nico JaVale Giannis show.
There we go. That's what we need. That, or he needs to become best friends with Vlatko. Then I'm on board.
So here's why I think the Nuggets would be interested. The Nuggets right now are the worst team in the NBA at defending in the restricted area. Opponents are shooting like 69.5% against Denver in the restricted area. It's the worst mark in the league, or I guess the highest mark in the league. And if you go back in NBA.com's database all the way to 1995-96, which I think is as far as it goes back, the percentage that opponents are shooting in the restricted area against Denver this year, it's the highest in NBA.com's database. So
in the history?
As far as NBA.com goes back, so 1995-96. So Denver is historically bad right now at defending in the restricted area. So I think you could maybe make the argument for a backup center, maybe a JaVale McGee there.
That's a good argument.
Yeah. Thank you.
Strong argument.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kale, do we have anybody that the comments are throwing out that they want to see in Denver or they want us to discuss?
Yeah. Oladipo, let's hit real quick.
Oladipo, yeah, a guy who I feel like is definitely going to get traded, but I don't see as a fit at all in Denver. I mean, Oladipo's looking to cash out in free agency after this season. I think he still views himself as like an all-star type guy, and I just don't know if I see that meshing well with what Denver's got going.
Yeah, he seems a big question mark to me, and an even bigger question mark with regards to why a lot of folks are hesitant about Aaron Gordon, which is, what is his role going to be in Denver? How on board is he with what they're trying to achieve and his place in that ecosystem? I just don't see it, as someone who helps the Nuggets right away, or really matches up with what they're trying to achieve long term.
Yeah, Oladipo also just hasn't been that great
good.
this
That's
year.
it. Yeah,
He's shooting like 40% from the field.
Yeah, and he's gonna want more than he actually is worth, like
Definitely.
at all. And then also he's coming back from like a big injury, so it's like there's a lot to question about it. And then you're on not a good team, and you're not showing that you're doing really well. And also, it just like you said, it's not a fit. It's not a fit for the Nuggets. It doesn't address any issues that the Nuggets already do have. So that's just not a name that I would be big on.
Yeah. Who else we got, Kale?
A lot of people are mentioning Harrison Barnes.
Harry B.
Barnes is in some respects, a safer option here at the 3 than Aaron Gordon. Insofar as he's played on contenders, you probably know what you're getting from him when he comes to Denver. But I actually don't think he provides. To me, the ceiling on the Gordon move is what he provides you defensively. And all of a sudden, you have the length and the athleticism between Gordon and Porter to feel pretty good about going into the playoffs. I just don't view Barnes the same way in that regard.
I think that Barnes would be my top pick if I was the Nuggets. I think that he's a perfect fit for the team. I think he addresses issues that the Nuggets have and holes that they have. He's also been on, winning teams and championship, aspiration type teams, and he knows what it takes to get there. He's also not a player that's just going out there and gunning every single time. He knows how to be in the system. He knows he's not the top guy coming in. He's going to come into work every single day and do what he has to do, and he's going to be really effective. So I think as far as fit, I believe that he's a better fit than Aaron Gordon, but Gordon is just the big name to go after. If you miss on one, I think that that's the one that you really, really do want.
I like Barnes. I like the fit. I don't think he has the defensive ceiling that Gordon does, but he's just super solid, man. He's just a really solid all-around player, and he's got the experience, like you said, Dev, and he's a guy who I think knows his role probably if he was to go to a good team. He's also having a career year, so I think he'd fit nice at that kind of 3 spot if the Nuggets do plan on playing Porter mostly at the 4 like they say.
I just think the point of this is getting a defender. A guy who really can defend playoff elite wings, and I don't view Harrison Barnes that way. Will Barton has been far better offensively at this point in the season than I think folks realize with the way he turned it on of late. If it's going to be Harrison Barnes, I don't know if the Nuggets really need to make that change. Whereas Gordon I see as a guy who, yes, it's a big if. I get that. But what you get out of him defensively potentially moves your ceiling. And I just don't view Barnes that way.
Barnes is a little taller. I think better defensively than Barton too. Anyone else, Kale, that the comments want to say
Just a couple of super chats to get to, actually.
Okay, let's do it.
Kerbo RIPX says, I'm a Knicks fan, but I dislike the fact that the league is not respecting Jokic. He has better stats than everybody, and his team needs him more.
Hey, you're preaching to the choir,
Kerbo,
my man.
You're at the right.
You're in the right pregame show right now, man.
You might as well just start coming more often. We're all as shook as you are. We cannot believe it as well.
Yeah.
When you have MVP out there doing what he has to do, it just makes complete sense.
If MVP does not win the MVP, hell might break loose. I don't even know what's going to happen. I don't know if this bar will still be standing if
there's
that
going to be
happens.
a street named Colfax that crazy things are going to happen on.
Yeah. Jokic should be such a big front runner for MVP right now that he looks back and he can't even see anyone. That's how big of a front runner he is.
His front runner should look like
be.
NBA math. He should be all the way at the top and everyone else is way down and around him. That's how it really should look.
Or the basketball reference tracker, which has him at 46% for his probability to win the award. Based off statistical precedent.
Yeah, look, I think a reason why ESPN's not coming out and saying he's the favorite is it's in their best interest for there to be a really heated race. It's in their best interest to, have people debating that it's a race because look, it's not right now, and nobody wants to hear that.
Right, we can't do that for 2 months. There also are a lot of players having great seasons, but it is hard to ignore the way it went from this is a 3-man race to. Oh, two guys are out.
10, 11, 12 contenders?
Let's tear it out.
All right, one more from Danny K. Hot take, Barton for Tybal. May not be win now move, but seem decent for both teams long-term plus. Philly said they liked Barton.
Matisse Tybal is fascinating because he's got some of the best defensive tools in the NBA. He is just so bad on offense that it's just killer. Remember Torrey Craig trying to DHO with Nikola Jokic? If Matisse Tybal was trying to do that, it would go worse than it went with Torrey Craig.
This is like Torrey Craig on steroids, man.
Right.
All the way around.
A better defender, I think. More savvy, a higher IQ defender, but Torrey Craig was a better offensive player than Matisse Tybal. So I like Tybal. I'd be cool with the Nuggets adding Tybal. But I don't think you want to be relying on him.
Yeah, he definitely addresses defense, but now it opens up another hole of something else that he's gonna give up in that. I think that he's great. I really don't think that that they're willing to get rid of him because he's so good and he's also a part of their future. Like we all like him for a reason. Like nobody is like against him. He does have a few things that he needs to work on, but it's still early in his career and they're not getting rid of him. That's just what it comes down to. They're
All
not
right,
getting rid of him.
one more last quick question. Is Jokic weaknesses on defense exaggerated? How do you guys feel about him as an overall defender?
Well, you're new to the show.
Welcome to the show, first and foremost.
You're talking
this
to
is
the
the
right
DNVR
folk.
Nuggets pregame show.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, it is absolutely exaggerated. I think it's a weighing issue. We don't know how to weigh certain things against each other, so he doesn't meet guys at the rim, and he will get blown by if he's left on an island with James Harden. So you don't see what we've traditionally understood as good defense, but he does generate a lot of deflections, get a lot of steals. He's a monster on the defensive glass. All of these things are part of defense. And more to the point, I think in clutch time, he's pretty good. His instincts pop up and they really shine. So I don't know if I go as far as Adam does in saying that sometimes I think he's like, a plus defender or anything. But I think he's far better than the national perspective, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was once in this relationship with people.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, I was once in this relationship, and when you're in these relationships, you don't notice all the other things that are going well, like good communicator, not argumentative all the time, has her own, and you start to try to pick at things that are there because everything else is going well. Everything else was going good in that relationship that I had to try to find something that wasn't so well. And I think that's what happens with Jokic. He's been so good at everything else that you're starting to find things that are not really there and then exaggerate them. Yes, Jokic could be better at some certain things, but I don't think that he's a bad defender. I don't think that he's a player that's out there getting attacked every single time. That used to be a part of it, and that's things that he actually progressed on and got better at. And that's what we're not seeing is people discussing how much better of a defender that he's got. That should be the conversation right now.
Yeah, I think he's an above average defender. He's just really bad at one part of defense. And sometimes it can be a huge part of defense, like we saw in those first couple games against the Jazz when he gets pulled out and teams just try to expose him that way. He can be exposed. But other than that, I think he's an above average defender. All right, let's move on here. So, like I was saying earlier, maybe this is Gary Harris and or Will Barton's final game with the Nuggets. Maybe it's not, and they finish out the year with Denver. We'll see. But I thought it would be cool because they've been such stalwarts throughout the Jokic era, such staples of this team, to go around and give maybe one, maybe two, if you're feeling up to it, just of your best memories of Gary Harris with the Nuggets, of Will Barton with the Nuggets. Vogt, what kind of comes to mind when you look back at those two guys as tenors in Denver?
I mean, the Gary thing, I had just moved here, was not credentialed yet, and I remember attending these games as a fan. Gary hits that game-winning three. And
the OKC game.
The OKC game. And it's arguably still the coolest moment I've had in an arena in any respect since I moved to Denver. So I'll always remember Gary for that.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely stands out. That was just a moment. You remember what you were doing at that exact time. Yeah. No matter if you were at the arena, if you were at home, if you were at a bar, you remember what you were doing when that moment happened. And for us to have been there, that's even wilder because you just remember the electricity that night. But also, I remember the game against Phoenix. I'll say back in 2018 when he had his 36 career high. Fareed is on the team and getting minutes and things like it feels like it was so long ago, but it wasn't. But that was a moment that we got to see Gary Harris really stand out and be a part of the offense, and also just you got to see the highs with him and not just all the defense that we goes under the radar a lot of the times. We got to see a scoring Gary Harris, knocking down the three ball, finishing well at the rim, and very healthy. That's just the things that I remember is the healthy Gary Harris and how good he was.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments, too, what your favorite memories of Gary Harris and Will Barton have been. Gary is going to have two plays that live in Nuggets lore forever, and it's why he'll always be regarded as a great Nugget. The OKC game winner, like you mentioned, Vogt, and also the poke-away steal on Donovan Mitchell, Game 7 against the Jazz. That play will be remembered forever. That play, and then Torrey Craig's missed layup, and then Mike Conley's missed three. That will be remembered forever, but it started, obviously, with Gary Harris's poke away on Mitchell. So that play will be forever remembered in Nuggets lore. So he'll always have that. Will Barton, for me, the only game that I really remember, and it's more for what happened post-game, was Game 3 against Portland in the playoffs in 2019. Barton, of course, had that really bad second half of the season, got benched early in the playoffs against the Spurs, and then that 4 OT game has really, like, his first good game of the playoffs against Portland, goes for 22 points, and of course, he was on Portland. He was drafted by them. Then he got traded to Denver. He wanted so desperately to have a good game against the Blazers. And I just remember him in the locker room. There's that classic picture where he's in that like white short sleeve button down shirt with the glasses on. And it was just one of those classic Will Barton post-game media sessions. It was a treat to be there for that. And just to see and get to experience how thrilled he was to have a good game in Portland, that's going to stick with me for a while.
I do want to acknowledge, when a lot of people are commenting, they haven't been traded yet. This does feel like a bit of a funeral for the living.
No, absolutely not. This is just like a appreciation.
Yeah,
if it does happen.
just in case.
Like we haven't been that high on them lately, so we just wanted to like get over and talk about Gary and Will, two people that have their names out there. If it happens, it happens. If not, we're rocking with them and we're ready for the ride.
Yeah. All right, it's that time of the show. Let's get out your phones, open up that DraftKings Sportsbook app, use code DNVR when you sign up or you're dead to me. Let's see what we got for Nuggets Raptors tonight. The game line is Nuggets minus 1.5. How are you feeling about your bets tonight, Dev?
So for one, there's two things that really go off for me. For one, it's the second night of a back-to-back. And we know how good the Nuggets play on back-to-backs.
We do.
Like, I just think that in their head, it goes. Two, they're playing against the Raptors who are not doing well right now. Like, they're having cohesion issues. Things are not going well. And we don't know when that'll stop. Like, they just lost to Houston, who were lost 20 games in a row. So, one, they suck. And two, one of them has, MVP, and he's going to go off. So, I think that we should just lock in Nuggets -1. That just seems too
lock
easy
it
to
in.
There's no point of doing the money line. If you're going to do it, it's -1. You might as well just do the point. Like, if they tie, they push. Like, the Nuggets are going to win. That's just like there. Just get it out the way.
I love it. Nuggets minus 1.5, a lock. Did you say you have another lock?
Yep, my other lock of the game is going to be Jamal Murray over on points. The reason that I go Jamal Murray over on points
is 20.5, by the way.
20.5 is what it's going to be. And we know that Jamal Murray is a player of narrative. And this is against Nick Nurse, who's, the Canadian coach, the Canada coach. And there's already been conversations there. So I think that this is just kind of I want to play, for you guys, like, after the year. And we know how much it means to Jamal Murray to play for Team Canada. So I think that this is a game that he really tries to go off against. I mean, it's called the Tampa Bay Raptors right now, but that's still Toronto. You also might even take that as disrespect. So we think that, you don't know what's going on in his head. So I think that that's going to be there. And also, we might as well just hurry up and get it out the way. Frank Van Vliet.
Fred Van
Vliet. Sorry,
there you go.
Fred Van Vliet.
We got there.
Just get it up there. Just points. Just take the over. We don't know. Kyle Lowry could get traded mid-game. We've seen it happen before. Get traded mid-game. Just get the points on Van Vliet.
I love it. My lock of the night, Michael Porter Jr. over 16.5 points is plus money, people. Plus 100. So I'm going to get on that. Vogt, you got anything that's sticking out to you?
Plus 115, Nikola Jokic over 1.5 threes.
He hit, 2 last game?
He did.
So he's hot.
He's hot, baby.
He's hot from 3.
But this is also a team that's just not as big as him, and they're not going to push him out to the three-point line. That's the only thing that I'm a little weary of that one. I just think he could just go in and just destroy if he wants to.
Absolutely.
Inside. That could happen, but he also could just be like, that's too easy for me. Let's step out to the three-point line.
You just got to love the plus odds on something that is ultimately just a decision for Jokic. He probably can just put 2 threes in.
Yeah, easily too.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Get those bets in. We'll, of course, be back post-game from this exact spot talking about what I think might be a Nuggets win over the Raptors. Hopefully it's a winner's lounge. We will be back in a couple hours. Until then, enjoy the game, guys. Thanks for tuning in.